there's so much opportunity out there these days and everywhere. And hockey players, for the most part, are incredibly, self-driven, hardworking, come from, for the most part, good families. I mean, there's such immense opportunity that any organization would love to have any of these guys they're just terrified to get out there and ask. And I think the biggest thing is just your support network, your friends, your family. And I mean, I was fortunate enough not to have to do the secondary education, but if you're playing, you're not good enough. I mean, finding avenues to learn more stuff, diversify your own strengths, and to give yourself the best chance to succeed when you get out.
We are live. Tom, Moises, we got a great show today. So first and foremost, this podcast is brought to you by two different companies. One is a premier virtual assistant company called Riva Global. So we use Riva Global. I'm owner of Riva Global, I should say. We use different types of virtual assistants to do and run our real estate company, whether it's text messaging, cold calling, admin, transaction coordinating, dispo. We have property management clients, et cetera, et cetera. So one of them is Riva Global. The other one is Perch Rock, which Tom is part of. That's our real estate investment company. And today we have an incredible individual on. So Tom, tell us a little bit before we introduce Moises. Why don't you tell us a little bit why we do this?
Why we do this? Well, we do this because we have zero barriers of entry into this business, and I will get into that in a second. But mostly, we want to give back to the game. We want to connect with different individuals that are, former professional hockey players, whether it be college, major, junior, whatever it is. That are now in real estate and utilizing those platforms in different markets all over the country. And the beauty of this whole thing is that we got connected through a mutual friend, business partner, Brandon Dubinsky, someone I played with during the lockout up in Alaska. And these guys are doing some big things out in Columbus. So you never know who you're going to run into. Who knows? We might be doing deals in Columbus someday. And if Moises and Brandon are available to be boots on the ground and we can make some money together, that's the whole point of this. So appreciate the time.
That name from Alaska. That's right. I was up there during the lockout.
Where are you?
Yeah, that's too funny.
Okay. Where are you from originally?
Born in San Diego. Lived there till I was 5, and then I spent 29 years in Alaska, and just recently moved here 2 years ago, 2021 July. We moved here to Columbus. So
nice.
I was up there during that lockout, and Nate Thompson, all his boys were playing, and handful.
Yeah, Nate's he's stiffed us three appointments in a row for this show. So
buddy, let's send him a text and tell him to get his shit together.
You want to give him some shit, like literally waiting in the waiting room, and he's like, "Yep, I'm not." It just goes completely. So we'll get him back on. But that's back to what I was saying. That's the reason why we do this, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your day. If you want to give us a quick rundown on who you are, what you do, and where you're from, and we'll get into the pecan farm thing in a second.
Yeah, that's our exciting little side gig at the moment. But
hey, man, it's real.
Played hockey for a few years professionally, kind of all over the East Coast, and went over to Europe for a little taste of coffee, and kind of got out quick. I just realized that there wasn't a future in the game for me at an early age. And I was very fortunate to have the opportunity with a family business back in Alaska to make the transition, or at least the decision, a lot easier, that I know a lot of guys don't have. So I quit at 23 and went back home kind of with my tail between my legs and jumped in our family business. And it's the best decision I ever made. But kind of how it all developed. But originally it was just a steel framing and drywall business that my dad had in Alaska. And we still do that on a large scale to this day, but just bounced around trying to get a sniff. And I always say, if I would have worked half as hard as I do today, we'd probably still be playing hockey. But unfortunately, it's a lot more to it than that. But It was a good decision to quit when I did.
Yep. We'll dig into that. There's a lot there. Obviously, we know your whole story. You have a pretty impressive story, to be honest with you. Retiring at such a young age and making that transition. I know for a lot of individuals, you made the comment about putting your tail between your legs, right? You were drafted
Drafted
by
in
Pittsburgh.
04, and the year I got drafted, they had Crosby the year prior. Lemieux was still skating, so I actually went to 4 training camps with the Penguins. And I remember the first day I walked in, you had Lemieux, Ziggy Palffy, Marty Orecki, Crosby was there, Stahl was there, then Malkin and Letang kind of came in the year after. And I mean, you're just like, you're so young at the time, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, that you don't really realize the opportunity that we had. But it's kind of cool to be on the ice with Lemieux, and did actually a 2-on-1 with him in one of the skates. So a couple memories came out of it, but that was kind of the little taste of coffee I got at that level.
Yep. Well, I mean, the takeaway there too is, I mean, I got drafted in 6th round as well. Was it 6th round back in the day? Yeah, I was with St. Louis, and I was in camp with Gretzky, Grant Fuhr, Al McGinnis, all those guys, just like you. And it's just seeing these individuals play were, absolutely incredible. But tail between your legs. Let's talk a little bit about that, because a lot of us, that are listening to this podcast are the same position that all 3 of us were in, right? We're trying to make the next level. It doesn't matter if it's coast to AHL or AHL to NHL or NHL to wherever else. Obviously, there's no league higher than that, but there's always something after. So tell us a little bit about what you meant by tail between your legs, because retiring that young is a little.
I mean, everybody, when you get to like major juniors and even semi-professional East Coast, you're all the best at something, right? You're good enough to get to that level, and the expectations and families. And I was in a probably even more unique position that, my best friend since grade 4 was Brandon, right? And he was a 2nd rounder and jumped in the NHL right away. And everyone kind of compared us from a small town that, hey, we both left the juniors same year, both got drafted the same year. And, he went on to make $70-80 million playing. And so when I quit, it was kind of just that like almost feeling a failure. And I remember I'd come home, and after I was 23, and I'd just be sobbing to my parents, like, what's the world have in store for me? And, but I just knew there was greater, and I knew hockey wasn't going to be the ticket. So it took months when I first quit to, want to go hang out with your friends back downtown in your hometown, and you were gone for years, and then you just didn't make it. But my dad had a pretty solid business that I knew there was an opportunity, and he just basically opened me with open arms, and I guess the rest is history. But that's kind of what I meant with the tail between your legs, just letting people down, the embarrassment that, hey, you didn't go further than you probably could have. Which is tough for a lot of guys, because it's all we know basically from 5 years old, 6 years old, whenever these kids start, the day you have to say goodbye to it, it's can be challenging.
Yeah, not only expectations from the outside world, but our internal expectations too are big, right? We get drafted. You think you're going to make the NHL. You think you're going to make millions and millions, just like Brandon, right? Obviously, he did a phenomenal job, and his story is actually pretty incredible too. He worked his ass off every time, every year to get that contract, and he got some big deals there too. So same thing for us, right? You're always looking, no matter what, if it's internal, external, there's always going to be pressure out there. How did you block out the noise and all the bullshit from friends that are, maybe they're shitting on you. Maybe they're saying, Moises, you're a failure. Look at Brandon, right? That's real. A lot of us.
It happened all the time.
Yeah.
But I was just, I think first and foremost in that particular, I was just so proud of him. I mean, there was no envious jealousy. It was thrilled for his successes, but I was just going to make it another way. And I think if anything, it's just more fuel to figure out that next step. And then, I just dove straight into business. I literally never looked back. I don't think I missed the game after that first few months, other than maybe some guys I played with, but it was just finding success in the next career, which I had it. I mean, you guys know how it is. We leave home at 15, you go to school, and I was in Kamloops, which was a powerhouse Canadian Hockey League program. And they pretty much gave me my junior and senior diploma. I mean, it was all hockey. You show up to class, they basically see your face, and it's like back to the ring. So I never had any secondary education. It was literally like, got my diploma, played a few years pro, and I went back home, and I've never looked back. But it's just proving the doubters wrong, which people that are doubting you generally just aren't doing much themselves anyhow. So I never put too much stock in any of it.
Well, a couple of things that you said I think is very important. Just your outlook is great, because you were talking about, you're proud of him, right? You're proud of Brandon. It's no victim mentality in your mind. You're like, hey, you know what? That's great. Good for him. Let me now dive into a different business that's going to take my mind away from whatever it is. Maybe it's your buddy shitting on you, whatever it is, or you have the mindset to take the next step and focus it on something else. Not everybody has that. A lot of people go through years of it is depression. Let's call it what it is, but years of being in a rut. But it is truly depression because you're going through. I don't like using that word, but I'll use it here because a lot of people go through that stuff. So you fought through that, which is absolutely incredible. And the other thing is no degree. You did not get a secondary degree, right? And you didn't rely on anything. Yep, you didn't rely on anything. Talk a little bit about that.
So, dude, you can come in and say hello if you'd like. Yeah, no, none. I just knew what I was going to do. I mean, you don't need it in construction. My dad had that steel framing and drywall business, and I just dove deep into it. We had there's several military bases in Alaska that had a ton of commercial work, and it was just at that rate, it was, hey, make relationships. Those were my talents, and I didn't really have time to even go back. I just knew that we could grow this contracting business, and I don't think a diploma of any kind was going to help me in the construction world. So I literally just made the best of the situation that was in front of me.
Let's walk through that. So we'll go through the years. You just jumped in with your father. So your father was your mentor. He helped you from ground up, right? So obviously your transition might be different than mine, might be different than Tom's. So you had your father to jump in. What did you do first? Did you start from the ground up, or did you already understand how that business worked?
Well, my parents had my sister and I really young. My mom was 15 when she married my dad, who was 21. I had my sister at 16, me at 17, and they were extremely strict when we were growing up, and just disciplinarians. My dad's up at 5 a.m. every day of his life, and just instilled that in like my sister and I. We just see it repetitively. So he was always putting us to work at a young age. So I knew his business. Kind of, I'd go to work in the summers from 10 years old to basically when I left for juniors, and I'd come back. But when I made the decision to quit, I think I was dating my now wife in Calgary, and I was like, hey, there's no more hockey here for me. So I called him up, and he's like, hey, he just been awarded some contract up in Fairbanks, Alaska. He goes, why don't you go run this for me? Remember, he's like, I'll give you $35 an hour. Just give you something to do. And I literally quit one day, and like a week later, I was up in Fairbanks, Alaska. I was going to work. So I didn't have time to pout. Kind of saw his business, and it's crazy because at the time, that first year, I was just an employee, and he sold about $1.2 million in revenue, and I think we're going to do about $35 million this year with the same business. And
wow.
So we've grown that exponentially. And I just got in and literally never looked back. And I think a year later, I got a small piece of the business, maybe 10-15%. A couple of years after that, we became full partners, and then about 4 or 5 years ago, they retired down to Mexico, and we've got some other partners now in the drywall business that have helped scale that thing substantially. But that was kind of the original transition. Is I quit hockey and just went to work for my dad. But I at least had that. So a lot of the guys I'm sure you've talked to, they're terrified to quit. Like, what is next? Most of the minors haven't saved enough money. I mean, shit, when I quit the game, I might have had $30,000 and some debt. Nothing was, but at least I had an out, which a lot of times is, if you don't have that, where do you turn?
Yep. All right, so let's walk through that. So then obviously you were doing your drywall company with your dad, and you also did some flips, right? Single family flips. And then you got into construction. So walk us through a little bit of that process, how you started with drywall, and then, your
I think the drywall business has kind of just been our honeypot, if you will, and it's turned into this large, super great business. But I just always had a passion to do more. I wanted to, maybe ego played a part. I wanted to be a home builder and build sexy homes, and I ended up winning a bunch of Builder of the Year awards in Alaska. And it probably wasn't the best business. I didn't, you want to give your clients the best, and maybe didn't charge. I didn't really know how to. I have no accounting degrees and finance degrees and operational structures at the time that you now learn after 15 years of mega failures. And then you finally hit a success, and I didn't know where I was making my money or how I was making money, but by the grace of God, we didn't go bankrupt. Everything you can think of in business, we found a way to achieve. But I got into the home building, just segued through making some money in the drywall, and bought a lot, and built like a semi-duplex / commercial space, and then we moved our business into the commercial piece, and that's literally started it. And then fast forward 7 years, we built 100+ homes and kind of mirrored our drywall business. They're both standalone companies, but the home building we're now actively winding down, and the drywall is still our powerhouse.
Very nice, very nice. And but you did some single family stuff too as well through the process, right? Before you got
It
into
was
home
all
building.
single family homes. Yeah. All the homes I built were for one-off customers, but did north of 100 houses over 7 years in Alaska. And Brandon was involved in that business as well. I don't know if you touched on it when you guys spoke.
Yep.
But
Very good.
he was still playing at the time, and it was growing pretty quickly. And he jumped in with some cash infusion at the time, and then came on the books and was involved after he retired.
So what does it look like today? You did the single family stuff, obviously in Alaska. Now you're jumping. Now you're in Central Ohio, Dublin, Ohio. What does your business look like today?
We still have the drywall business. It's primarily based out of the Northwest. I've got two wonderful partners in that. Guy named Tyler Moore and my brother Trevor. They run a majority of the day-to-day, almost everything on the drywall piece. It's kind of just turned into this 150 employees. That's it. But we've set it up. It's kind of their deal. A couple of years ago, we decided to move here. Brandon was involved in the home building. It wasn't doing well. We were moving product, but we weren't making money. It was just a tough business. The market started shifting, and the Alaska marketplace, you couldn't charge enough for what you're getting. I mean, the money just wasn't there. So we slowly wound that down, and he was starting this multifamily development stuff here with another partner, Jeff Bauer, in the Midwest. And I flew down and visited with those guys a few times, and everyone kind of just saw this place was blowing up, and my wife loved it here, and it's been an amazing move. But at the moment, we're just doing all multifamily, 3-story walk-ups. We've got a 288 unit site that is about done, getting ready to lease units. And then we just broke ground on, I believe, 198 units. That's going to have a second phase of a similar size. And then we also have a 216 unit project coming up in Sydney, Ohio as well. So damn near north of 1,000 doors here over the next 24 months, but it's been a pretty crazy transition.
That's awesome. Are you guys, what's your exit strategy? You guys holding them and keeping them, or are you guys planning on reselling them?
Well, we got the one we're doing now is in an opportunity zone, the 288. I mean, it's a 10-year play at a minimum, just because there's too much tax advantage to unload. I mean, just, as they say, the mailbox money is never gets exhausting. But I mean, like anything, it's all for sale. I'd say a combo of both. Timing in the marketplace, get the right price. I mean, I'd never say anything isn't for sale. But it's going to be a myriad of all of it.
Yep. Gotcha. Tom, I know you got a bunch of questions here. Take it away.
Yeah, I want to touch on a couple of things. So you basically, when you retired, you said that you didn't have time to kind of go through that lull and feel sorry for yourself. And I think that's a big testament to that old school mentality of playing. What birth year are you?
86.
86. So you're my age. I'm February 86. And it's just like, that blue collar upbringing of, you're not a victim. Get your shit together, figure it out. And I think that's a big testament to where you came from, your upbringing. What advice would you give guys today? Because obviously we're in a different world right now. The game is different, business is different, technology is expanded immensely. What advice would you give guys that are kind of got that one foot out the door mentality where, they don't want to make $500-600 a week playing in the coast anymore? They don't want to make 50 grand a year.
Yeah, I don't either.
Crazy.
They don't want to make 50K a year playing in the American League, with living expenses. So, they're for guys that are listening to this show, like, yeah, there is money to be made. But at the end of the day, reality is reality. And at some point you're going to have to face it. What advice would you give those guys to, that are kind of worried about, what the next step's going to be?
It's such a great question, but I mean, there's so much opportunity out there these days and everywhere. And hockey players, for the most part, are incredibly, self-driven, hardworking, come from, for the most part, good families. I mean, there's such immense opportunity that any organization would love to have any of these guys they're just terrified to get out there and ask. And I think the biggest thing is just your support network, your friends, your family. And I mean, I was fortunate enough not to have to do the secondary education, but if you're playing, you know, you're not good enough. I mean, finding avenues to learn more stuff, diversify your own strengths, and to give yourself the best chance to succeed when you get out. But I mean, it's just networking. I mean, getting to know people, get your name out there, because you never know where the next opportunity is going to come from or who you've met along the journey that is now doing something, you know, like, I mean, you guys, there's always people doing impressive stuff that would be thrilled to bring on an ex-athlete of some kind that will add you know, shit, we'd love to hire every athlete that's out there because they're hard work and they're going to bring, you know, immense value, assuming they are willing to work and learn the craft. But it's just not being scared. I mean, just literally just don't get out there and find what it is. But I mean, tougher to do than said, but I mean, it's generally that simple. I mean, you just gotta go for it.
Great response. Great response. I do want to touch on, you know, we'll get back on topic. I know Bob's got some more questions, but your little side gig, I want to get into that a little bit, because at the end of the day, this is a real estate podcast. You do have some land down south, so walk us through that opportunity, how that came about, how you're involved there, and what it is like to own a can farm in
It's actually a remarkable journey. My dad's been in the business for 30 years. So he planted his first field, which was like 20 acres, which they've now retired on, and built a beautiful home down on this farm. But about 10 years ago, we made our first little pot of money. I remember clear as day, we got like a $500,000 check, one of our commercial jobs from retention, and a land deal had come up that was a couple $100,000 in Mexico. And my dad, you know, obviously Mexican citizen. So we bought it. It was like 50 acres. And over the next 2 years, we planted it and full irrigation system. And I figured, hell, one day that thing's going to pay me, you know, a couple $100,000 a year in 6-7 years, and nice little nest egg. Well, fast forward business, things went well, and had some pretty, you know, some partners with some believed in me and the vision down there. And I've got Brandon jumped in, got a couple other guys out of Alaska, myself, so about 5 of us that just went bananas the last 3-4 years. And I think we've pumped north of $10 million down there and got a little over 1,000 acres. And we got about 300 acres that are just creeping into production that hopefully, by the grace of God, they make enough money to start covering the expenses of all the other ones. But it's a full-scale operation now. I mean, we've got warehouses, endless amounts of machinery, all mechanical harvest equipment. But the opportunity was just because obviously I'm Hispanic and my father was in it, and we were fortunate enough to be able to acquire some land in some good areas. But it's a full-fledged business now. I mean, it's past a little side hobby. It's that damn thing better make some money. We put everything.
How many employees?
At peak harvest season, we have probably north of 300, but with equipment and technology these days, with all the mechanical harvesting, it's incredible. I mean, I can send you guys videos of how they do this stuff now. It's nuts. But full time, we probably only have 20. My dad oversees half of the operations down there. Then the other half, we have it to another family member that's overseeing it, just because it's three separate farms, kind of spread out within a 30-minute area in that valley. But it's been a sizable undertaking, to say the least. But we've got some great partners that you don't get in the farming business unless you have a fucking good day job. It's crazy to just the timing and how long it takes to get these things online. But we ended up buying a field that was pretty close to production. That was our biggest investment down there. That's now starting to return some nice dividends.
Nice. Are you? Is that more of a passive thing for you right now, and you're kind of not involved, or are you spending most of your time, you know, focusing?
I'm actually on a flight down there here in about 2 weeks, but I've been going down 3 to 4 days every month. But with the size of the investment, I mean, I'll be down there half a dozen times a year. But my parents essentially retired down there when we made all these investments to just oversee it. And at the end of the day, it's still a third world country. You're in the cartel territory, and there's a lot of variables, if you will, and business is done. Everything's done in cash down there. So it's kind of a little shady undercurrent in the actual business world of how things operate in Mexico. And, you know, we're trying to get paperwork for well titles and land titles, and there'll be stacks this big at some of these, you know, whatever Department of Agriculture you're doing with Mexico, and like you're sliding a guy $1,000 to just find your paperwork and get you done. It is what you think it is when you're doing business down there, but it's just the way they operate. But
Wild West, man, I love it.
It really is. It truly is. But I've got some fantastic partners, and it's just, these things produce for hundreds of years. So by the grace of God, I would stay healthy enough and be able to enjoy the fruits of that labor. But our kids, their kids, I mean, it's going to be a really nice annuity for a long time.
So how did you, let me ask a question on top of that, because a lot of it has to do with raising money, right? What did you guys do to, obviously, the success in your business, all the way from the, your drywall company to everything that you've done on top of that? Where do you guys look for money? Is it ex-players? Is it anybody, for seed investors or investors to jump in your projects?
For the development piece, or are you talking across the board?
Anything across the board, because
well,
obviously I know
stuff was just all of us personally, because
gotcha.
You've got to trust basically the guys operating it on the farm piece. So that's literally just close to guys that we trust. You want to be in business for the next 50 years, and our kids got to get along. I mean, that's truly a lifelong investment. I mean, our drywall, we're not raising cash there. We have huge lines of credits, and that's a self-sustaining business and making money. But the development piece, I mean, to start, I know Brandon probably touched on it, but we're members at a few country clubs here, and it's been just friends, family, some of the guys that we've met. We've been fortunate to have pretty deep networks of contacts between, Jeff's been lifelong Ohio. I mean, he knows damn near everybody in this market. We haven't had issues to raise the money we've needed to raise as of yet, but we're always out networking, and people are knowing what we're doing. And historically, real estate's been a safe place to park money, and people kind of get excited when deals pop up to stroke checks. But we've been fortunate to be able to raise the cash needed, and we're putting a lot of money in on our side too, right? So it's pretty easy to go to the street and you have a $5 million raise, and you say, hey, we're putting in $1.5 million or $2 million of the 5. Brings a lot more confidence to the potential investor. So, Brandon, Jeff Norwood, Brandon's got a big name here. A lot of guys, a lot of friends. I mean, people like doing business and with people they know and they trust, and that's been extremely influential for the growth. I mean, Brandon touched on, but I think we've got $150 million of real estate going right now in the Midwest. I mean, it's crazy.
Yep. That's good. Let's talk. Let's jump a little bit about hiring. Do you guys look for? What do you look for when you hire? Because I know you have obviously your drywall company and this company, you have a lot of employees. Do you look for specific things? Like right now, we're doing predictive index when we're looking to hire people. Do you guys do anything like that, or you look for ex-athletes? Right now, we're honing in on just athletes.
Yeah, our drywall piece, it's such a specialized business. Like if you didn't grow up in framing or didn't grow up in drywall, you can't find anybody these days just a general superintendent. You got to in the Northwest. I'm talking Seattle to hone in on the drywall, but I mean, there's 6-figure packages. I mean, these guys just want everything because you're competing with these huge, the Turners, the Walshes, these big general contracting companies that can pay a general superintendent $150,000 to live in Washington. So it's been a real challenge to find like mid-level supervisors on our drywall piece. Yeah. But hell, anybody that will take the interview for the last 2 years, it's been hard to get anybody to go to work. So we've had to, unfortunately, cycle through a bunch there to find someone that's qualified and knows enough construction to actually direct traffic and bilingual. I mean, 95% of our workforce on that piece is Hispanic. So just being a motivator and know that, we're nothing without our people. We're not dumb enough to do that. So instilling that in your leaders to, treat all these guys great. And it's been hard to hire. That's been the biggest challenge. Then the development side, we're not, we have general contractors that we partner with that build. So we're still our 3-man band on the JBM piece that haven't brought too many guys in, but I'm sure at some point as we grow that side, again, it's probably going to end up being someone we know, a good friend, and as we scale this. But simple answer.
I like it.
Just finding someone that is qualified enough to show up for the interview is half the battle.
So if there's anyone listening to this that speaks half Spanish, that's an ex-player, make sure you call Moises, dude. You have a leg up on everybody,
If you're
and
in
you're
Oregon or
hardworking.
Washington, you're hired tomorrow.
There you go. There you go. All right, Tom, take it away. I know you have a couple more.
Yeah,
last
just want to end. I mean, we're coming up to the 30-minute mark. Don't want to keep you here too long. Let's talk about JBM and your day-to-day right now. What's your role with the company? What are you kind of focusing on? Are you just monetizing projects that are currently going on at the moment? Or are you still prospecting for future stuff that's in the works? What's the day-to-day
We're all
like?
prospecting, and we've kind of, been a couple of years. We're still navigating kind of a lot of our day-to-days, but I'm more our owner rep. I was in the field today on one of our projects, sitting on the sub meeting, walked all the buildings, just more than anything, just expanding our sub base, getting all the guys that are on our sites that are about to jump on our second site, and kind of learning the flow of the general that's building the thing. And but I think the active role is just the owner rep between myself and the general contractor, and in the field. And I mean, we're always looking for potential future investors and getting out in the communities to the people that we think will invest, and just expanding our network. And I mean, that's a never-ending battle. As you were asking earlier, how you're going to find the cash to build everything we want to build. But that's generally most of the day-to-day.
Good stuff. Bob, what do you got? Anything to wrap it up?
Yep. Yeah, just a little wrap. We always like to do a synopsis of it. I mean, your story is pretty incredible, if you ask me, because you played 3 years. You got into an industry, obviously, where your father was successful in, but it sounds to me like you took that and helped him expand it, right? Because it's going from I can't remember your numbers, 1.2 million and 1.5 million over to 25, 30 plus million. Pretty impressive. Obviously, you're a hardworking guy, and you have the passion. But I think one of the takeaways for me is you actually have you said proud of, and this keeps going back. When somebody's proud for somebody else, good things happen to those people, right? Because if you have their back and you're not a crab in a bucket where you're pulling them down, you're just jealous. When people are sincerely happy for other people, they end up being way more successful than the people that are just bitching, just pissed off that, let's say Brandon made the NHL, you didn't, your woe is me, you're a victim mentality. That's what I find in individuals on this podcast that are successful are the individuals that think just like you and don't have that victim mentality. So that's obviously a kudos to you. And I think that's a big takeaway that anyone listening to this, don't be bitter. We all have the same shot that each other has, right? Or had. We've all done this 20 plus something years, and, we've put our time, energy into it. And sometimes the chips fall. We all have a story. It all depends on what story you tell yourself here. Because I think that's very, very important. Guess what? I wish I played in the NHL. My brother played for 14 years. He's number 4 in the world draft pick. I could either say, oh, I got screwed. He's 6'2", 220 pounds. I'm 5'11 and a half, not 220 pounds, right? So we all look at it different ways. And I think it's a testament to obviously what you've done to not only help your dad's business grow, but jumping in with the other businesses and Brandon and what you've built. You're obviously an entrepreneur. Wherever you learn that, you keep pushing the bill.
Yeah, through and through.
Yep. So I want to, so to finish with that, I just want to thank you obviously for jumping on this podcast, and you have impressive businesses. We want to thank you for taking the time, obviously, out of your day. Tom, any last parting words in your end?
No, I just want to say thank you. And the beauty of the game, the beauty of, I mean, I don't think there's any other business out there besides real estate. I think there's so many different ways to make money, to get creative and build a brand, build yourself. I think I say it every day, attitude of gratitude, and just thank you for being here, taking the time out to, get us a little bit closer and connect and, possibly, maybe do a deal together someday. And
would love it. We got to get you guys out here to the Midwest and play some golf and show you what we're doing. We'll host a podcast here at the office.
That sounds good.
That'd be awesome. And if there's guys that, want to reach out to you, Brandon, your company that are maybe in the Columbus area that are thinking about getting into business or, becoming part of a development team, how could they reach out to you?
Awesome, guys. Well, I appreciate it, and look forward to maybe doing it again one day.
All right. Cool. Do you have an email or a contact information you want to give out just in case someone wants to reach out?
Yeah, it's Moises with an IMOISES at jbmdev.com. You may reach there pretty much at any time.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks again. Have a great one. Thanks everyone for watching. Moises, appreciate it. Have a great one. Thanks a lot.
Take care,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Thanks, guys.